Hello, Year 7. Okay, so I'm gonna try and do a kind of video lesson today. Um, as always, any feedback, just let me know. I hope this is going to be more useful and a bit more engaging for you. And also, I hope that it will help you to build up the drawing. Today, you have got 3 tasks. So the first one is to act on feedback. Well done to those people that submitted the transcription of the Scream last week. That was really, really successful. Most of you that did that. I've given you some feedback, so I just want you to think about that for this week. If you didn't complete the Scream, then now is your opportunity to do so. I've obviously going to provide this video, so I'm hoping that will help you and allow you to be able to submit. And then the third task would be to act on feedback from previous work. So I'm up to date with all my marking, so I'd just like you to spend your hour lesson this week trying to improve your work. Obviously, try and complete as much of that as possible, but you do only have the 1 hour, so just spend that time on it, please. And then the last challenge is to think about how you could extend your drawing. So could you draw the Scream again, but just using black and white this time? How could you get tonal range in your drawing? How can we develop our use of maybe colour pencils or pencil or biro, whatever you want to use, to create something that looks visually different? Okay, so to start off the drawing, you need to draw a box. The box needs to be the same dimensions, the same size as the Scream image that I gave you. You can see in this image here that I've got the Scream transcription, and all it is just on my laptop. So I've put it up to full screen on my laptop, and then I've tried to draw on my piece of paper the same dimensions as the image that I provided. You can see as well now that I've got my hand here, so what we're doing is we're starting to use our hands to measure the proportions of the image. So I'm measuring from the bottom of the bridge to the top, and then I'm moving my hands here, keeping them the same distance apart, and then I would make a mark here with my pencil. I'm then going to do the same on the left, so measuring on the page on my laptop, putting my hand without moving, and then making a mark. And then we're going now across again, so I'm looking at the bottom of my page and I'm measuring the bottom actually of the bridge. Again, putting my finger down, and you can see here now that I've got 3 marks. That is going to be, when I join them up, the edge of the bridge, and this is going to help me to get my proportions correct and the idea of scale 3D elements in my drawing. You need to make sure that you're using a ruler. I actually didn't have a ruler, so I just used the side of a notebook or a book or DVD case, game, literally anything, but make sure that it is straight and you are joining your lines up. Okay. The next thing that I did was I looked at some kind of different key points within this bridge section. The reason why we're starting with the bridge is because actually when we look at the image, it does take up quite a lot of the painting. So if I know that if I get that incorrect, it means that most of my drawing will be mapped out. Okay, so I've got that in there, and I've just added 3 little bits relating to the bits of wood. Now what's important with these 3 is that it goes up, so we're thinking about the fact that this will go straight and then this is going to go up. So in a 3D world, in the real world, we would be walking on a flat bridge, and then we could maybe hold on to the side here, but that would be going up. So we need to make sure our line work represents that. Okay. Once I've got the bridge, then I'm measuring for the person. That's the next easiest thing to look at. So I'm going to measure the left hand side, make a mark on my page, measure the right hand side, make a mark on my page. I'm then going to measure height, which you can see here. You can see my left mark, my right mark, and now I'm measuring height. And then we've got that in there. What you can see now is that I am measuring the head. So I have made a mark for the top of the head, I've done a little bit of a curve, and then I've measured the bottom of the head. So as always, we're checking width and we're checking height. Once I've got that mapped out, I actually just added a little bit here for the top of the clothing that he's wearing, and you can see my markings. Then I started to add a bit more detail. So I started to look at his hands. I measured again. You could measure from the top of his head down. You can measure from the bottom here up, but you want to be using your hands to check the measurements from here to here, getting that right on your page. And then you could be thinking about adding some curves in to represent the body. I've also started to add the curve here for his sleeve, curve here, and just some kind of straight lines going down. You can see that now when we look at it on an overall, it's starting to come together. Okay, the next thing that we want to look at is the people in the background. So the people in the background, again, we want to measure the length of them, so their height, put that on my page. We want to measure width, put that and do a mark on my page, and now you can see that I have got some little dots where those two people are going to go. One thing to check here as well is I'll check from the bottom to the bottom of their feet, so check the height here just to make sure it's correct. I've then sketched the people in, just quite rough, not spent too long on it. I can always go back and tweak it, but what we want to think about here is the fact that these people are walking into the distance, they are further away, therefore they need to be smaller than the screen. The screen is at the front of the image, so he will appear bigger. That is just how we do things. If we think about when we look at a skyline, the buildings seem so small and so tiny, yet when we're stood next to them they appear huge. So we need to create that illusion in our drawing as well. Then we need to think about background. So we have got background here again, now looking at the top, so measure from the top to the edge here, and I will do the same on the left. And I have started to get in this curve. One thing that you can also do is measure from this side to here. I can also measure now when I look at this detail and I look at my image and think, oh, the line is just above his head, so I want to get that drawn in here, and the line is just below her elbow. I can draw that in here, and I can also measure the distances here on my image. So now once you've got that, you want to draw any maybe details that you want to add. You want to check your drawing, so that's why now I've put the original next to it. So is it looking like the original? Is there anything that I need to change? So as I say, those little kind of distances here we might want to tweak. We can check this section here, and we can see the head near the hat and starting off here. Okay, so you just want to check your drawing at this point. Right, so the next thing that we need to look at is the details of the bridge. This is probably the hardest section, so what you want to do is break it down. So I am counting the panels of wood. So I've got 1, 2, and then the edge of the third one here, and we know that they go to the two people at the back. So what I want to do is I'm going to measure from here down, and then I'm going to map it out on my page. But then we know this piece of wood goes all the way to the back. Where does it match up on the people? It's just below her elbow, which is where my finger's pointing to, so I can make a mark here, and I need to join those two lines up. And then I'm going to repeat this step, so I can measure maybe from the bottom to the top there, and I could make a mark. Then where does that one line go on the person? It goes maybe halfway down the coat. I can make a mark there, and then we can join that up. Okay, so on this image you can see I've got my line work added for the bridge. This is quite rough for now, and this is quite tricky, so I'd say this would take you maybe I'd say about 5-10 minutes. This is the section that you really want to focus on and get correct, because as we can see now in this image where I've refined it, I have got 1, 2, 3 sections of wood, so that's correct as according to my image. I have also got the 3 sections of wood going up. Now, as I said before, you must make sure that these lines are parallel to the edge of your page. So this line, if we carry on going up, 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 it will never ever touch this line. Okay, so you have to make sure that those 3 lines are parallel. We also need to make sure that this appears straight, flat, because we know that we walk on flat surfaces normally. A bridge is a flat surface normally, and then the panelling is going to go up. So what we would rest our hands on needs to go up. I have also added here some lines going down to kind of emphasize the texture of the wood, to emphasize the fact that actually we're close here and we're getting further and further away down here. So you'll notice that the lines are nice and close together here, but as we go further towards us, they get further apart. Okay, and that's a good tip to think about when looking at scale and perspective. The next thing that we want to think about is adding colour. Please use whatever materials you've got at home. Don't worry if you don't have colour. If you don't have colour, you could try and do it in black and white. So blending is what you want to think about. Blending is where you layer 1, 2, 10, 20 colours together in order to create different variations of colour, different variations of tone. So you can see here I've chosen orange, yellow, red and brown. I'm now layering the colours on top of each other in different orders, using my image as a reference, and I am doing so in different areas. So you can see here I've got yellow and orange only, here I've got all the colours, here I've got all the colours. So I'm looking at the different sections and I'm trying to build that up. The other thing that you want to think about when adding colour is pressure. So you can see the difference between the two here. Here I've pressed really hard. I've applied a lot of pressure to my page because I want to try and get bold, bright, vivid colours. Here I have pressed on a lot lighter. I have also again thought about the layering, so in some areas I've got brown, orange and yellow, some areas I might just have brown and yellow. This isn't finished yet, but I just wanted to try and show you the 2 different variations you can get, because that is really important when doing any drawing really. You have to make sure that you're thinking about pressure in order to get variation of colour, but in also in order to maybe think about what's going to be bold in my drawing, what's going to stand out. So as we know, we want the screen to stand out. So here I've used my 3 colours, black, brown and blue, in order to add tone and variation. I started off with the brown quite lightly, and then I've added the black and elements of the blue on top. The black I've pressed really quite hard so that I've got a bit more of a 3D aspect, I've got more shadow, more shading, and the blue I've added just very, very lightly in some areas. Remember that blue and brown are colours that you can always add to make things darker. Black sometimes it's a bit too harsh, so the 3 can work quite nicely together. Okay, so what I want you to do is to add colour using pressure, using blending to the whole of your screen transcription. If you didn't get up to this point last week, then you can do that this week. If you want to maybe try in black and white, then you could also try and do something like here. So I've done an example just using pencil, creating tonal range, and you can see the different areas that are standing out. Okay, so please have a go at this week. Just comment as always if you need any help, but I hope that that video has helped you to understand how to build the drawing up, how to add pressure and use blending, and how to think about scale and proportion. Okay, thank you.